Welcome, everyone, to the School of Greatness podcast. We've got the legend, Robert Kiyosaki, in the house. Thank you so much for being here. Super excited about this.
Well, thank you. People say I'm a legend in my own mind, and my reply is, you may as well be a legend in your own mind because you're not a legend in anybody else's mind.
Hey, you got to believe in yourself if you want to create great things in the world. At least you've got to believe. It's almost 25 years now, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? Are you sick and tired of talking about Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or is it still something you enjoy talking about?
No, it's kind of what we were talking about. This is what I'm supposed to have done anyway. I mean, it was, so I got on my path.
Yes.
And what I was saying, what you and I were talking about before we started is I meet a lot of guys who something tragic happens in their life, but it was the best thing that ever happened to them. Like I had a friend who was a Olympic snowboarder, and he did one of those goofy things those guys do, and he shattered his body.
Oh.
And nobody could heal him. So he became an acupuncturist. And the guy is the greatest. He found his real gift. It's not snowboarding or whatever he was doing. He's a healer. Mm-hmm. And he uses acupuncture, and he heals people. He's unbelievably good. But if he hadn't crashed, he wouldn't be where he is today.
Yeah. What was the big tragedy in your life?
Oh, there's every other day. There's every other day.
What was the big tragedies? What was like the big aha moments where something bad had to happen for you to say, oh, let me wake up and take down this path?
Oh, there's a lot of them. I mean, I really was, as an entrepreneur, my biggest failure was that I was successful in my first venture. I was about 25 years old, and I started a nylon and Velcro surfer wallet business. And everybody said, "Well, why are you doing that?" I said, "Well, I don't know what else to do,
Right.
And I used to make nylon wallet. I went to school in New York at a military school, a sailing school. So I used to sew these nylon wallets out of sails. So when we're looking for an idea for a product, the product sucks. The product doesn't really count. I just needed to start a business. So I was working at Xerox at the time in Honolulu, and I showed this little wallet to my two partners, two criminals. But anyway, so we came out with these nylon wallets. We had them manufactured in Korea, and nobody would buy them. So I have 100,000 wallets in a warehouse in New York. I'm in Hawaii, and my friend and I are going door to door trying to sell these stupid.
No way.
And everybody kept saying, "Are you shitting me? What are you guys doing?" And what happened was, because we failed at the wallet business, I was sitting in our offices in Honolulu, and then somebody says, "Hey, the jogging had just started. Baby boomers are first getting into health." And they started jogging. They had the Nike Waffle and all these other good shoes.
Yeah.
And so this guy in Golden Gate Park goes for a jog. And he didn't know what to do with his key, so he put his key on top of his car tire. And he went for a run, and guess what? He came back and his car was gone.
Wow.
And so the headline says, San Francisco Times says, "What does a jogger do with their key?" And I went, oh my God. So since I have kind of a quasi-engineering background, I designed with a hook and tear method and built the shoe pocket that went on a runner's shoe. So I had this nylon wallet, now I had a runner's shoe. A shoe pocket. So I go around the world again. So we're going broke so fast. We had no money. We just kept borrowing money, raising capital. But it was all good because I was learning how to raise capital.
Yeah.
So finally, we're desperate. We buy a full, those days, it took 4 months for an ad to come out. So we had to shoot this stupid shoe pocket on a New Balance 320 shoe. And we get it into Runner's World magazine. I think it cost me $16,000.
Oh my gosh. That's a lot of money.
And then we waited for the phone to ring. So we had to wait till like January, February, March. The phone didn't ring. So we want to quit. We're out of money, can't pay the rent, the repoed my Harley, and it was getting so bad. So let's give one more shot, just one more shot. So we go to New York City at the sporting goods show at the Coliseum. And I'm setting up my booth in the basement because that's all I could afford. And this guy goes walking past and he goes, my company must be called Rippers. So I'm putting my big sign up, Rippers, and he goes, Rippers? rippers. Where have you been? And I turned around and said, I'm here. No. He says, where have you been? I went, what do you mean? He says, I saw your ad. I said, good. My store is filled with people coming in looking for the shoe pocket.
Wow.
I said,
call me.
That's what I said. So I asked him, why didn't you call me? He says, you idiot. You don't have your address or phone number on the ad.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
And then what happened is Playboy put a pic, they featured this young thing with nothing on but a shoe bucket. And our sales went to run. I looked like a genius, but This is where we went broke. We couldn't keep up with demand. Wallets took off. Shoe pockets took off. We were borrowing and borrowing and borrowing just to finance inventory. We were shipping all over the world. And we went broke because I kept raising money. And one day, but we were already like $850,000 in debt, which is a lot of money back then.
Wow. It's a lot of money right now.
Yeah, well, it's relative. Anyway, so I go back to my partner, Stanley, the accountant, the CPA, the CFO. And I said, how much more do I have to raise? He says, I think 100,000 will do. I said, good. So I go raise another 100,000, right? So I hand the check to Stanley because he couldn't, accountants can't sell. Anyway, so I give him the $100,000. Says, will this take care of the problem? And Stanley said, yes. It took care of his problem. He paid off his investors.
Oh.
So we're still broke. We had no money. Stanley hits the road. And that's how we went down. Stealing
Stanley.
I love that guy. He did me the biggest favor of all. You know what I mean? I learned so much, man.
What was the greatest lesson you learned from that big success/failure?
Well, just because they're smart doesn't mean they're not dishonest or crook. And I've run into more crooks. I think I hire them on intention.
Until you learn your lesson, right?
No. Every entrepreneur I've talked to have had somebody steal from.
Mm-hmm.
I go to my doctor, and this little cutie working for him, this beautiful young woman, as sweet as everybody loved her. And then so one day I went and said, well, where is she? And he goes, where is she? Well, what she did, because she's tech savvy, she rigged the invoicing on their computer. So, 20%, like 90% went to the doctor and 10% went to her.
Wow. And
so she heisted. I said, that little sweetheart? He goes,
smart.
Yeah. And then so he called the police. And this was the interesting part. Her father was already a rich guy.
Mm.
And he comes in and says, I'll pay you anything, just don't send her to jail.
Wow.
So then that was the next thing you learn. Is it better to send her to jail or take the money?
Wow.
So she's in jail. No, just not. But what I'm saying is you can't teach that stuff.
Yeah, you got to experience it. You got to go through it.
It's right in front of you all the time.
Man, what's the lesson you've learned in the last 2 to 3 years that you thought you'd already learned that you keep learning that comes the hard way? Is there anything that you still learn, or have you seen it all?
No, it's that as you know, Rich Dad Poor Dad is a story of my rich dad who had no education, but he grew up in business for real. He took over the family business at 13, so he kind of grew up in the real world of money. Where my rich dad was a PhD, poor, helpless, and desperate, went to Stanford University in Northwestern. Very smart guy, good guy, and all this. But as you know, teachers don't know shit.
Yeah.
They teach stuff. They teach stuff they don't know nothing about.
Right. Well, some of them are forced. They're forced to teach that, right? Some of them try to educate in other ways and inspire.
Don't defend them. Don't defend them. I don't like them. Anyway, you know what happens? When do I get in the most trouble? Is when I criticize going to school. Because to many people, it's their only hope and salvation.
Yeah.
So if I say, well, I don't think school teaches you much, I may as well piss on the Pope. They said,
I know.
Religion. If you don't go to school, and then it tells us, well, Steve Jobs dropped out. He did pretty good.
Yep.
Gates dropped out. Dell dropped out.
Zuckerberg
dropped out. Henry Ford, Walt Disney. They didn't hurt.
Mm-hmm.
No. So anyway, education is religion to most people.
Yeah.
So that's why I step on toes and I get dumped.
Well, what did Mark Twain's quotes say? Like, don't let schooling get in the way of your education or something like that. And one of the reasons why I started the School of Greatness, I was telling you before we started recording, is that I was in the special needs classes literally every day for as long as I can remember. Since kindergarten until 7th year in college, I had a tutor. I was in the special needs classes with a few kids who had learning disabilities. And it was the most challenging thing for me because I wish they would have taught me things that I'm learning now. And the reason I created the School of Greatness, because I was like, what are the things I wish they would have taught me in school to help me get ahead in my finances, to help me get ahead in my health, my mindset, my, how to deal with a breakup in a relationship, a tragic time, like the emotional side of things, the education that I wish they would have taught us. I was like, I'm going to go create it. I'm going to find people like Robert and teach us the ways. So, you're doing that through your work, and I'm trying to do that. But I think there's people trying to do good by educating outside of the traditional school system where I think they're more limited.
Correct. And that's why I created the cash flow board game, is because I learned about money playing. I learned about money playing Monopoly.
Yeah.
I learned more about life playing Monopoly than I did in 4 years of college.
Yeah.
I went to a really good school, the best schools in the world, U.S. Merchant Marine Academy. I came out a rich man, but it didn't teach me much about money. I was only a high-paid employee.
Yeah.
So then I joined the Marine Corps. Then I have two professions. I can fly for United Airlines, or I could sail for Standard Oil. I didn't want to do either because it wasn't challenging anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I think if there's a lesson is that I'm looking for the challenge, and some people are looking for security. They're two different people. They're very, very. They're extremely different people.
Yeah, and you talk about rich favors the bold. Those that are willing to take risks and willing to put themselves out there. Do you think you can get rich without taking risks and being bold and taking these big chances, or can you keep this security mindset and really gain true wealth?
Well, many people have. You look at Cuomo and all those guys. They were born rich kids from their father.
Right.
Trump could have taken that path too. He was born a rich kid. So it's not. I think you're either an entrepreneur or you're not.
Right.
I think that's the difference.
It's interesting. I never thought I was an entrepreneur until I had a big wake-up call, a tragic experience. And it was kind of like a perfect storm. I didn't know how to make $1. I was not like selling baseball cards. I didn't do the lemonade stand. I didn't try to hustle all this stuff as a kid. I literally maybe made a little bit of money in the summers just because my dad put me to work. And I had this dream of playing professional football. And then I made $250 a week. My dad got in a tragic car accident. He was in a coma for 3 months. I didn't have a college degree. It was 2008. The economy went down. I was living on my sister's couch. She was feeding me. I was making no money. I was living off 3 credit cards with student loans. And I didn't have my dad as that kind of financial safety net anymore because he wasn't able to help me and bail me out. So it was more like, what do I do? No one was hiring people with degrees at that time, even master's degrees. I didn't even get a bachelor's degree yet. And I was just like, how do I survive? So I don't think if the worst thing in my life would have happened, I want to be here learning how to be hungry, how to say, I need to go survive right now and take chances.
Good for you.
I think that perfect storm mentality made me into this survivor creative mindset, willing to risk it all. Whereas if I had my father to kind of protect me financially or say, because he was like, you're going to take over the business, you're going to come work for me. And that was my mindset. When he kind of left emotionally and mentally, he's still alive today, but not the same from the brain trauma. It made me step up as a human being, as a 24-year-old and say, I got to learn some stuff.
And that's what I say to young people today. Look at this pandemic, this coronavirus pandemic, it's really tragic because it attacks the old guys.
Mm-hmm.
But even worse is the baby boomers had it the easiest of all generations. But now their pensions are gone, their 401ks are gone.
Yep.
Social Security is broke, Medicare is broke. So I say to younger people, this pandemic, this crisis is the best thing that ever happened to you. You think about that iPhone. You have more power in that iPhone than I had with my Sperry Univac mainframe computer. And then so when I meet people who say, oh, the economy is bad, I said, the only economy is between this ear and that ear. There's an economy out here. But this is the best time for your generation because you're tech savvy. I'm not tech savvy. This was made for you guys. The old guys like me are being cleaned out by the pandemic.
Unless you have a lot of assets that are bringing you in cash.
The way is clear for you. Now, the old guys are gone. They're dead.
Right.
What are you going to do about it? So it's really a great time. But exactly as you're talking about, the bad times are leading to the best times.
That's it. Yeah.
If you can see it. But unfortunately, as you know, there's a lot of your generation and younger, they'll never recover.
Yeah.
They're going to see this as the worst of times.
I know. And they're going to reflect back to this in 5 years and 10 years and say, that's the thing that screwed me up or hurt me and be a victim to it, as opposed to saying, okay, this is happening and how can I make the most of it? And what's it going to take for me to learn a new skill or get more creative or be hungrier in this time?
Or more important, who's your teachers?
Who are you listening to?
Well, that's why I keep saying to the millennials, they're a pack of wimps. I meet millennials who are just horrifyingly weak. Snowflakes, I call them. They go to college and
doormats.
They're taught trigger events or whatever. I don't know what they say today, but they've got to have special rooms where there's no whatever. I'm going, holy mackerel. Welcome to the real world, And there's other millennials who are as tough as nails. I mean, this is the biggest opportunity they've ever had.
Huge.
So it just depends upon what's between this ear and this ear, what's in your heart. That's it.
Yeah.